Hey there, I'm Anthony Romano, and I'm going to tell you in this video the power of blood flow resistance bands, which are basically these things, okay? And essentially how they can help you to add mass on all of your limbs by enhancing the lactic acid buildup in your muscles, okay? So I never promote anything that I don't believe in, and this is something that I've actually had for the past 3 months, and I've tested out during the quarantine because that was a very useful time to, get my hands on something like this in my home gym. And I absolutely love these things, okay? I've noticed the benefits firsthand, and I intentionally made this video months afterwards so that I could see the effects myself. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the science and the theory about how these work, and maybe I'll slice in a little bit of a workout footage as well. But I'm a big fan of these things, and I'm going to explain them in this video. And also, if you want to get the ones that I have the link to my Amazon affiliate link in the description if you're interested. Especially because there's a lot of these things that are just like dramatically overpriced online. So these ones are good from what I like, unless you want to get super luxury quality. There's some good ones in the description. Let's get into this. So I had initially gotten these blood flow resistance bands during this, quarantine situation 2020 that we find ourselves in. And the reason I got these is because I have a home gym, okay? The home gym is not extensive, but it gets the job done. And essentially I had invested in these because I figured, okay, there's no way I'm going to ship more equipment to my house for the next few months. There's no way I'm going to go out and get more weights for overpriced amounts when I already have enough. So I got these because essentially the theory behind blood flow resistance, okay? Stay with me here because this is going to be a little teach you something about the difference between bodybuilding and powerlifting. There's actually a study on this that I'll throw up here too. Bodybuilding style training is all about the pump.
The pump?
Well, not necessarily, but it's about progressively overloading your strength and continuously getting stronger, but there's a bigger emphasis on time under tension, okay? That is the difference between bodybuilding and powerlifting. This is why powerlifters are often big, but essentially because muscle is a byproduct of strength. But at the same time, bodybuilders have more shape in their muscles, and they've built up the muscles through hypertrophy more because they're continuously stressing the muscle and putting it under tension for longer amounts of time. Powerlifters will lift heavy weights for 1 to 5 reps, and that will tear the muscle fibers, but after that point, it's not going to saturate the muscle full of blood and lactate any more than is necessary. So essentially, the body will recover after those fibers are torn, and this is why powerlifters get big. Bodybuilders do the same thing, but bodybuilders grow these aesthetic physiques because they are not only tearing the muscle fibers, right? Perhaps they're not even tearing them as much as the powerlifters would. They're certainly risking less on their joints than a powerlifter would, but after they've torn the muscle fibers, they will flood the muscle with blood and lactate. This is key.
That's what we call the pump. Your muscles get a really tight feeling.
Like your skin is going to explode any minute. It's really tight. It's like somebody blowing air into your muscle. It just blows up and it feels different. It feels fantastic.
Because once you are continuously filling up the muscle, right, the pump, what's going to happen is your body not only has to repair the muscle fibers, but essentially it's an adaptive response to stress that there is way too much fluid and lactate in your muscle that your body says to itself, okay, there's way too much, this muscle is way too filled up. We have to grow as an adaptive response to being able to fit that much fluid in the muscle. Okay, so it's literally a response to grow because you just slammed the muscle full of blood and lactate. So it's an adaptive response literally based on your muscle not being big enough to contain that much lactate and blood.
It's terrific, right?
So powerlifters don't necessarily get that effect. They will absolutely grow because they're tearing muscle fibers, and perhaps a lot of times they will slam large amounts of blood and lactate in there just based off of how much weight they're lifting. But at the same time, bodybuilding training emphasizes that. That's the key distinction. So there's a study that I'll throw up here basically that demonstrates the difference between those two styles of training. Bodybuilders focus on slamming the muscle full of blood and lactate. Powerlifters focus more so on creating tears in the muscle. And this is where blood flow resistance comes in, okay? So thank you for dealing with that theoretical explanation. But here's the thing. Theoretically, these things will help you trap more blood and lactic acid in a muscle. And I actually got this one that has the one for legs in it as well. Rarely use those ones. I do a lot of leg training, and it's already hard enough to find pants to fit my legs. So, so I've been using the arm ones mostly, and you will notice this effect. Like essentially, you slip it on, but you know you'll notice this on your shoulders and biceps the most, well, and triceps. But essentially, you slip it on like this, tighten it. Okay, not too tight to the point where you're gonna, you know, cut off your circulation. But then you strap it in, and then you know, weave it through, and then from there, you know, you already got more tension, and this traps the blood in the muscle more and creates more of that lactic acid buildup, which is what you're going for if you're aiming for aesthetics and physique building and bodybuilding. Okay, so that is the theory behind all of this. And for myself and my personal experience using these things, I was not bulking up or building muscle during this time. I was actually doing a very aggressive cut during that time. I don't cut all the time. As many of you know, I do ketogenic diet basically year round. I've been doing it for 8 years, probably longer if you're watching this in the future. Essentially, I do keto year round, and I do a lot of keto bulks, keto cuts periodically, because keto allows me to slowly build muscle while staying lean. So there was a span of 1 or 2 months during this quarantine where I was aggressively cutting. The other months of the 3 that I had these for were basically maintenance, okay? And or maybe light cutting, I would call them, because just because I do keto doesn't mean I'm cutting year round, but I was taking an aggressive fat loss approach for 1 to 2 of these months that I had these for, and my arms stayed the same measurement, 16.5, I believe, inches, and essentially, it's not as if I was, you know, shooting for massive growth, but I will tell you, undoubtedly from my experience, the pump you get from these things is astronomical. I absolutely love it. You absolutely do notice a bigger pump, and you know that might just be my subjective opinion. That's not a scientific study, but at the same time, I definitely notice a bigger pump. I definitely notice more vascularity, and I notice better strength gains a little bit. But again, keep in mind, I was using high repetition movements. Okay, I was in my home gym. I was basically once you hit a certain point of weights, right, a certain point of stimulus and intensity, my only other option was to increase repetitions, and I was doing that with the addition of these blood flow resistance bands. But the main takeaway for you, and perhaps I'll elaborate on this in other videos, is this is a tool to enhance muscle building. Okay, I'll put some studies up here as well demonstrating that, because this complies with all of what we know theoretically about bodybuilding and gaining muscle mass. It's about slamming the blood and lactate into your muscles so that you can force your muscles to grow as an adaptive response to hold that much lactate and blood. That's essentially what it is, and of course you want to be tearing the muscle fibers as well so you can create that replenishment and that growth again. But even if you're not prioritizing a growth scenario specifically, this is something that's going to be beneficial for you. I've noticed better density. I've noticed even like when I hold my arm up, like not even flexing. Of course, I'm lean at the moment, right? I'm normally always lean, but I've noticed the density in my muscle bellies better. Okay, maybe that's subjective for me. Maybe I'm an individual case here, but as far as my experience, I've thoroughly enjoyed these things. I would recommend them, and there's something that I'm definitely going to be using. Especially because if you've watched any of my videos on the golden era bodybuilding type stuff, once you get past a beginner and novice level and you've built up your body with a lot of those compound movements, which by the way are totally effective even with these. You don't just have to be slamming arm workouts with this, right? I prefer doing a little bit of compound movements as well, because it still creates that, isolation of your shoulder. It still blocks off and traps the blood in your shoulder as well, right? So it's useful for building up the frame as well. But the thing is, in bodybuilding, anytime you get to an advanced stage, you have to focus a lot on isolations and doing them carefully. And one very big tip I can give you is when you're focusing on isolations and doing them carefully, you don't want to go super heavy. That's how you can hurt your joints, because it's an isolation. It's a one muscle movement, okay, one joint movement. And you don't want to slam too much pressure and weight on your joints. And it's a lot easier if you use weight that is manageable, that's not going to tear your ACL. Or I guess if you're using the light ones, not going to tear your rotator cuff if you're using your shoulders. And essentially, you have this blood flow resistance band on top to further slam blood into your muscle more so than a higher weight would allow. Okay, even with the people who watch my videos who enjoy the Vince Gironda stuff, a lot of this is careful, strategic training. It is not just, brute strength, ego lifting. That's not what this is. And you will get better results from tactics like this and focusing on the isolations and building up your physique once you have a frame, once you have the compounds built up. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say on this video. If you've enjoyed this one, click like. Okay, subscribe to me right now and follow me on Instagram right now. Okay, leave me some comments. I'll do my best to get back to you, and I appreciate all the support you guys have been giving. Go to my website for coaching. Programs are going to be coming out soon, but I'm just working on like 5 of them at once, so that's why they're taking a long time. Okay, because I'm writing like the Keto Pro Guide, the Keto Shredding Guide, Keto Bulk, Fitness Cheat Codes, Keto Cheat Codes. I'm writing all these things right now, and I like spreading a lot of my work thin, so it's taking a while. But thank you for watching this. Leave me your responses if you've used occlusion bands / blood flow resistance bands. I know a lot of people have talked about these things. I wanted to be one of the first ones to, talk about it on a more experienced, practical level because I've used them for the past couple months. But that's it for this video. Thank you. I'm Anthony Romano. Peace.